May 12th, 2025. This is the Town Council meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Valerie DiPaolo. Here. William Dietzick.
Here.
James Morelli.
Here.
Tony Morrison.
Here.
Christopher Palmieri.
Here.
Jack Perry.
Here.
Jennifer Klock.
Here.
Michael Del Santo.
Present.
Paul Chaplinsky.
Here, we have 9 Town Council people. If everybody can please stand for the prayer and the flag salute. And stay standing after the flag salute, please.
Heavenly Father, give us grace tonight to understand that the impact we make upon this community is not just for today, but for the generations who will follow us. Help us to do what is right and, if need be, courageous. We commit ourselves, our decisions in the town of Southington under your care. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If everybody can remain standing. We learned this week that Dr. Joseph Arardi, our former superintendent of schools, passed away recently after an illness of some time. Dr. Arardi was an outstanding superintendent. He led courageously. He was liked by so many, and he was a collaborator, an intellect, and somebody that the town was sad to see go when he decided to take on a new challenge and move on to Newtown after the tragedy. Following leaving Southington, he was very highly praised for the work that he did in Newtown to bring that town from the tragedy to where they are today. So I'd like to take a moment of silence for Dr. Joseph Arardi and the contributions that he's made in Southington and beyond. Thank you, everybody. Okay, we are looking to go to item number 2, the minutes. We have 4 meeting minutes. We'll take them individually. Item A, regular meeting, April 14th, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Val. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
And I'll abstain.
Motion passes 8-0-1. One abstention, Chris Palmieri. Item B, regular meeting, April 28th, 2025.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a motion from Chris and a second from Mike. Any discussion on April 28th? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously, 9-0. Item C, special meeting, May 7th, 2025.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion from Val and a second from Chris to approve the meeting minutes from the special meeting of May the 7th, 2025. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Okay, motion passes 8-0-1 abstention. Mr. Perry, Councilman Perry abstained. Item D, special meeting, May the 9th, 2025.
Make a motion to approve the special meeting minutes from May 9th.
Second.
We have a motion from Chris and a second from Mike to approve the meeting minutes of April 9th, special meeting, April 9th, 2025. Any discussion there? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstentions?
Mr. Chair, I abstain, and it's May 9th. You stated April 9th.
Thank you. May 9th, correction. Thank you, Jack. Okay, so we've approved May 9th, 8-0-1 abstention from Councilman Perry. Okay, before we move on, I know the town manager had mentioned on the agenda.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just briefly, there's an error on the numbering on the agenda. There's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Roman numerals, then we go back down to 1. I just asked that the chairman renumbers those 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we also, when the agenda was made, we had an executive session and some old business for real estate contractual matters. At this point, with the two special meetings last week, that matter is now moot. So I'd ask when we get there for a table on those matters, and Attorney Matney will be briefing the council and the public on those matters.
Thank you.
His
Then,
report.
for the clerk, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for a motion here. I'd like to ask for a motion to renumber the agenda as follows. Town manager's report and communications will be number 6. Town attorney's report will be number 7. Public communications will be 8. Executive session real estate contractual matters, 22 Main Street, will be 9. Old business will be 10. So it's old business item A will be 10. New business will be 11, and adjournment will be 12.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Chris and Mike. Any discussion on the renumbering? And just for the record, nothing was taken out of the agenda with the renumbering. It's just that there was an error in the numbering on the agenda. So any other discussion on that? We'll make the notes then for the meeting, for the agenda and the meeting minutes. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion to do the renumbering of the agenda passes unanimously by voice vote. Okay, let's move on to item 3, councilperson communications. Jen?
Yes, I have one communication. So I wanted to congratulate Christina Volpe, who was awarded the Mimi Finley Award for Young Preservationists by Preservation Connecticut. And I've worked with Christina a number of times. Every single time I'm amazed, impressed, educated. I learned so much more. So if you haven't, please go join one of her many tours or historical sessions. It's never too late to learn more about Southington. So congrats to Christina Volpe.
That's excellent. Yep, congrats, Christina. Very well deserved. It's a big award, so nice job. Chris?
Couple, all pretty brief, but some items to share. First of all, I would just want to thank Marilyn Cowell. Paul, you and I had the privilege of taking a tour of Kelly Elementary School with Marilyn, and thank you to Steve and Colleen and Bob Brown, who's another board member that attended that tour as well. It was just great to hear firsthand about the struggles. It's not great about the struggles, but just to hear firsthand about how things are being managed with the building as old as it is, and just how they're making do with the space there, and quite honestly, the need for the upcoming referendum that I know we're talking about with the elementary facilities. So huge thanks to Marilyn for giving us behind the scenes look of Kelly Elementary School. And then Jen, I know you see it daily as a parent, so you live with it, yes. Also, last Thursday, Paul and I had the pleasure to attend a meeting at the police department by the Steps Youth Council. Incredibly impressive to hear our youth talk about some of the risks that their peers are being associated with. Specifically, they were talking to us about all the vape shops in town and what can be done maybe at a local level and at a state level. So the presentation they gave was enlightening, and they were really rolling up their sleeves and making us all proud for the work they're trying to do to protect, again, their peers. So just shout out to them. I attended the Board of Ed meeting on Thursday where they talked about the elementary facilities. Paul, maybe I'll defer to you. You were there for that too, to maybe give an update to the council, as there was action at the board. Is that all right with you? Okay, so I'll defer to you for that. A couple good news items that maybe we can add to the minutes from Steps. We mentioned it a while ago. Intro to Farm Camp is going to be offered again this year at Leaf, which is going to be from July 29th to August 2nd, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And I was going to submit the flyer, but this is last year, so I'll email that to you if that's okay for the minutes. And also, on Saturday, May 24th, they're having their annual plant sale that one day, and it's only from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So if I can add this to this one is accurate. So I'll give you this now, and then I can email you the Farm Camp flyer. And then finally, just with prom season coming up, just another shout out to STEPS in particular and the Youth Council and just the board in general. It is prom season, and I just want to remind all residents of the Connecticut Social Host Law. And what this law means is that it's illegal to give minors access to alcohol or cannabis in anyone's home. It's illegal to serve alcohol or cannabis to minors in your home. And it's illegal to allow a party or event at your home where someone else will provide minors with alcohol or cannabis. So again, just as we're entering into prom season, it's a good reminder of the social host law for the state of Connecticut.
It's wonderful. Thank you, Chris. Val?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just have a couple announcements for events for this weekend, actually. One event is the annual Memorial Food Drive that Bread for Life conducts each year. So I know it's been very successful. That is on Saturday, 10 a.m. to 12:30. You can drop off food items at Bread for Life on Vermont Ave. They do have a wish list up on their website. You can get in touch with me if you'd like to know some of the items. And they also would be very grateful to have grocery store gift cards or monetary donations. So I know that's been successful. And the second event on Sunday, the First Congregational Church is having its first annual townwide block party, which is celebrating mental health and the community services that the different resources that we have available in the community for mental health. So that is Sunday at 1 o'clock in the parking lot over at the church, and there'll be all kinds of events going on. There'll be mental health stakeholders with informational tables, but I think there's going to be an inflatable obstacle course. There'll be live music, food, face painting, and things going on. So I think it'll be a nice event.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Val. Anybody else? Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Vice Chair?
I made a mistake, Val, I apologize. In the last meeting, I mentioned that last Sunday was the Family Fun Day. It was actually the Sunday Fun Day. We had two Fun Day events last weekend. So Saturday was the annual Southington Fun Day, and I didn't make that, so Phil, you want to comment on that after. But I did attend the 70th anniversary party for the ARC at Slopers, and there's a lot of people to thank, but I will have to say that over 200 kids came and participated. It was really fun. The fire department, police department brought equipment there, and they gave tours, and they gave fire hats, and the kids really enjoyed that. And a special thanks to Slopers for donating the facility for that day. And then I did also want to let people know that it's probably too late for most of you now, but today is the day that the Southington Community Center does their clothing drive. It's some kind of a bazaar. And there were a lot of people that spent half Mother's Day moving clothes back and forth yesterday. So thanks to all the volunteers for that.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Is there anybody else? Tony?
Yeah, I just want to make a few comments on the budget, Mr. Chair, but not on the budget as is before us tonight to vote on, more like a future. And I think it's important to say. When the Board of Finance presented their budget to us at the last meeting, I mentioned the budget continued our work on behalf of taxpayers by keeping town services costs low while providing all the services we need. And to show how low, I showed how our tax and revenue increases since COVID, which are 23%, were less than inflation metric, which is CPI, and less than the wage growth and Social Security metrics. Wage growth is 25%, Social Security is 24%. So, you know, we've essentially kept the impact on the taxpayers lower than the those metrics, which is really important. So we haven't been penalized by heavy inflation coupled with slow wage growth. Okay? And that's important in a state that is as highly taxed as we are, both for ourselves, the residents, and the businesses. But looking in the future, there's another metric that give us cause for concern, and that's the growth of the ground list. The ground list has grown 15% over that period, and obviously the mismatch with the revenues and taxes, the expenses and the taxes, shouldn't be surprising, because obviously inflation has driven some of our increase, whereas that inflation hasn't been felt yet in properties until the revaluation that's coming up. So, however, if you project out our growth in expenditures by taking, say, the budget increase that we have in front of us right now, and you look at it for, say a 3-year period, just to cover the growth of that, we would need an extra $1.2 billion in our ground list, which is a growth of 22%. Now, I've just said, obviously, the ground list grew 15% since COVID, but we're asking the ground list to grow 22%, which is obviously, shall we say, a challenge, in order to sustain what we think the budgets will be going forward. Okay, so there's other problems too. We heard from the budget presentation by the Board of Finance of the headwinds that are there from both the federal and the state perspective, which may see significant decreases in municipal funding. So the point I'm trying to make is this picture is unsustainable, unless, of course, you desire massive tax increases, which I don't believe we do. The future is unwritten. We know what can happen, so we need to work in the next year, couple of years, to put us on a much better path. We need to obviously search for efficiencies every year, which we do, and we'll need solid work in 3 areas. Continue to collect correct tax amounts. Our tax collections this year brought in $800,000 extra in tax revenue. Unfortunately, it's only covered the $800K we lost from the state sales tax givebacks, but it was very welcome. We'd have been in a world of hurt without it. So let's see what we can do on that in the next couple of years. The ground list growth. We've set the stage for kicking up the growth another notch by various commercial and industrial projects. But again, we need to step up our efforts in this area. And expense control. I hate to pick on the Board of Ed as they presented a budget where the cost increases were generally substantiated. But the town side did cut their year-over-year increase by $1 million, while the Board of Ed kept to a $6 million increase. So in this area, maybe there's an argument for a different model to be investigated, and hopefully the ongoing work with the state will see a reduction in unfunded mandates. So if we do a good job with these 3 areas, we'll be fine, as we have the advantages of our conservative fiscal policies and excellent reserves. And that's it from me.
Thank you, Councilman Morrison. Jack.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a couple things. First, I want to, bring up, I brought it up several times in regards to our firefighters. Last week at the state capitol, they had an event to recognize our firefighters, and they also addressed some statistics in our state that, currently the volunteer firefighters are on a sharp decline. Hang on, I'll give you the exact percentage. So there's a 63% drop in volunteer firefighters, and the state, there was a lot of speakers, and they said this should be a wake-up call, that there's less volunteerism for firefighters, less firefighters going into that career path. I know I met with the town manager, and I also explained my concerns with that because, Southington is currently understaffed based on the study that we had done. And I know we're trying to get there and add more firefighters, but it's going to also get to a point that other towns are in the same boat and there's not going to be any candidates. So it's going to kind of be similar to when we've been trying to find department heads to fill positions in the town. We couldn't find them. So, this is something that I think we really need to look at, the entire state's challenge and make sure that Southington's in a position that if it comes down to a dollar thing and we can't, also get the firefighters, that's a lose as well. So just imagine saying, hey, we have the money, but there's no firefighters, then that's not doing right by either, the firefighters, the department, as well as our residents in our town. So there was an article in the Connecticut Insider, and then I think one of the news stations covered it as well, I could share that with the council if you guys want to read up on it. But it's a bigger issue in the state, and it's also because there's less young adults getting into that career profession because of the dangers. Another thing I wanted to mention is I want to thank the town manager. You know, I reached out to him several times about several different things, and he's done a phenomenal job, you know, addressing them and trying to do better. He's trying to improve certain things. Like I had some business owners reach out in regards to permitting issues and the path and the confusion and all that. So I just want to thank him for, you know, listening and looking into those, as well as trying to come up with a better flow that, you know, streamlines it and makes it less confusing when people are coming into either town hall or the municipal building. And then lastly, Mr. Chair, at the last council meeting, you mentioned me being on my cell phone. I understand that, you know, there's nothing that prevents that. And I get it, you know, I'm not gonna take a phone call on the dais, but if I get a text from my family members or work or something and it doesn't disrupt anybody, I need to be able to do that. I'm volunteering here. And there's no difference of me looking up on the computer. I think it's childish, to say the least, that you're gonna sit here and say that I can't use my cell phone. If you think there's anything that is in my official capacity being done on my cell phone, you could FOIA that. But I can guarantee you that I have a young child at home, and it's that, and it's sometimes work-related things, and I'm a volunteer here, and I'm giving back to our community, and I don't like the fact that you try to intimidate me on using my cell phone. I think it's very improper in today's day and age to tell somebody they can't use their cell phone like I'm a child. I'm an adult, and if I'm not distracting any of you, I don't think that there's any harm versus me using that. I use my cell phone for notes, emails. Everybody uses their cell phone. So some meetings, we are here for 4 hours, and you're going to tell me I can't use my cell phone or communicate with anyone? If I get an emergency call, I've always stepped out of this room and I've had a conversation. So I just hope that the antics or the comments of me using my cell phone come to an end. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. And I know you've directed your comments to me. My job as the parliamentarian at this meeting is to enforce the rules and ensure that the meeting runs smooth. At the beginning of our term, this council of 9, including you, voted on a policy that said that we are not allowed to use personal electronic devices, including phones and tablets, and that the electronic device that could be used on the dais would be issued by the town. Because I think we all up here recognized that there's a lot of ex parte communications going on between the dais and people who are not on this dais. And so this council, 9 people, not just the chairperson, but 9 of us voted on that town council policy. So we all must have to live by that policy. I have no issue with you, Jack, taking a phone call during the meeting. Mr. Del Santo last meeting took a text message from a family member. He got up off the dais and he went into the back room so that he could respond to the message. I would ask you to do the same and adhere to the policies of the town council.
Mr. Chair?
We don't need to keep going on about it, Jack. You can bring it
Well,
up.
I'm requesting the floor during councilperson's communications then, please.
Okay, Jack, we're not going to argue back and forth about town council policies. If you have something new that you would like to discuss, then please do. I'll afford you one more opportunity during Councilmatic. Please go ahead.
Well, Mr. Chair, you're trying to limit the discussion on this,
I'm
which I
not.
don't think is proper. We're here to do a job, and I think it's important to highlight that I've already asked the town attorney if there's anything, and he's pretty much told me, and he's not here this evening, that it's just kind of like housekeeping rules, but it's not part of we adopt Robert's Rules of Order, we have a town charter to abide by, and I did not support that. So I just think in today's day and age, and me also being the youngest person on this dais, I rely on my phone as a tool.
Is the floor mine now, Jack? Confirmed? Okay. After this, we won't continue on this. I would ask you we will have to follow the town council policies as adopted unless this council votes to change the policy. So if anybody here, not just you, Jack, any council member uses, I will remind them. And if we continue to not follow the rules, then we can always take a recess and we can discuss it and allow the person to use their phone so that we're not violating council rules. Happy to have anybody here want to change that. You're free to talk afterwards about the policy. Okay. Anybody else that would like to speak during Councilmatic? Okay, thanks, everybody. I had a couple items. Before I address mine, one of the things, Chris, you had brought up was the Board of Education Building Committee. Since we have the superintendent and the chairwoman of the Board of Education, instead of me giving that, would you like to take 60 seconds and just give a brief update as to what transpired at the last meeting and what the outlook looks like? And obviously, I think I remembered, we're not quite 100% defined yet, but maybe you could tell us where we are.
Where we're at right now is we are not sending to the council a request for a referendum in November for Kelly and South End School. What we are instead sending are requests for roofing at Hatton, Strong, and Thalberg. We kind of flip them. What we will be doing is sending a request for a referendum in May to the town council for a new Kelly school and a build out of South End School. That's phase one. Phase two is to be determined. One school will be closing. We just haven't, I won't say we haven't decided yet which school will be closing. We're still looking at more details to get further information to make sure we're making the proper decision. So, but we wanted to make sure that we got phase one started, because as you saw, those who came and thank you for coming over to Kelly. You saw the condition of Kelly. The work needs to begin. So that was our decision.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I think that's a great update, and we'll look forward to more communications in the future. The good news is the board voted to move forward on phase one. Now it's further defining what that looks like and beyond, so thank you. With that, Chris mentioned I did attend the Kelly School tour. Thank you to Principal Collin and all of those who were there as well. I will just say it's dismal. It's embarrassing that we have a school that looks and is in this condition, and I'm hoping that the Board of Education will, if it's not this November, will look to try to make this as soon as possible. We obviously have 3 schools that are in need, and walking through Kelly School was, although I went to Kelly School, so it's not new to me. So this wasn't the first time I've been in there, and I've been in there recently as well. But took the time to walk through and really just get the kind of behind the scenes that Chris mentioned about. We got to go into boiler rooms that had desks and work in there. We saw storage rooms that had photocopy machines in them. Lots of tiles in the ceiling and the floor. It's just unacceptable. It's unacceptable in today's day and age that Southington has a school like this, and I'm hoping that we can get this fixed up and taken care of in the not so distant future. Looking forward to the proposal from the Board of Ed. Chris mentioned Steps Youth Council. It was great. Thank you to Megan Albanese and the other students from the Youth Council who put on the presentation. I did ask the students that were there, I liken them to disciples. It's not easy being a student, a teenager these days, and going out and advocating for things like not using drugs, not vaping, not using alcohol, when there are peers who are doing that. It's not easy. So to have the Youth Council and the STEP Youth Council representatives and the STEPS team doing that and sitting together, reviewing their accomplishments, talking about the future, those STEPS kids are disciples of the STEPS program. And my encouragement to them was to be good disciples, to believe in what you're doing and tell other people what you're doing and why it's important. Because unless you're doing that, it's we can't win this fight. So thank you to the Board of Ed and also the students who sit on the Board of Ed as well and give the regular updates. They dig in, they spend time, and seeing them do that, we need more of that. So thank you to all of them. A couple other items. I did attend with Jim the 70th anniversary of ARC. That was wonderful. Kudos to everybody that was there. It was really heartwarming to see that event, and thanks to everybody who put that on. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers that are out there, a belated Mother's Day. Without all of you, none of us could exist, and none of us who we are. So thank you so much to all the mothers. Teacher Appreciation Week was last week, and I'd like to say thank you to all the teachers that are out there and all the support staff and everybody who volunteers in our schools. Nothing could be more important than educating our youth. And I want to thank Chris Palmieri, who's on the dais, and I try to acknowledge this every year with you, Chris, so thank you for the work that you do and the leadership as well. On a personal note, I'll also thank my wife. My wife's a 4th grade teacher, so I've told her personally, so I'll tell her publicly again. She's not watching, but thank you for all you do with the kids. It was a great pleasure to see some of the notes that came home last week from the students in her class.
Paul, can I just
please.
add one thing? Just
Sure.
Teacher Appreciation Week, it just occurred to me as you're saying that. I'd like to thank a lot of our local businesses, because I know at DePaulo in particular, so many local businesses donated to recognize our teachers and staff, and I know that was across the district. It wasn't unique to my school. So just a huge shout out to all the businesses that appreciate and took notice of all that educators are doing for our students across the town of Southington. So really a big thank you to all those businesses.
And the PTOs.
And the PTOs.
PTOs,
absolutely.
they're just phenomenal. I mean, they really step up with these type of things, so thanks to all of them as well. Thanks, Chris, for the reminder. Okay, this Sunday, 1 week from yesterday, May 18th, will be the last service that Pastor Jim Townsley will give at Central Baptist. So I wanted to give a shout out to Pastor Townsley for his leadership. Pastor Townsley started a Christian academy for K-12 and also a college at the school. And, that's quite an accomplishment. He does a lot in our community. He doesn't ask for praise, and he does it quietly behind the scenes. So thank you, Pastor Jim Townsley, for 50 years of service to this community in bringing the faith-based organization that you've brought and that you've nurtured here. My final comment is, I spoke to the town manager. I received a complaint from someone in town who has an automobile and doesn't have a pickup truck and is trying to access the transfer station. And, it's kind of an interesting situation. If you're trying to use the bulky transfer station and, trying to access that, I could see where some people have some issues with where we are. They have to go get a pass, and then each time they use that, they get a one-time pass if they're going to use a truck that's not registered to them. I had originally sent this to the town manager, and he responded that he's going to look into this. So I know that he's been looking at digital alternatives as part of the work, Jen, that you did with the technology committee. So some point in the future, I think Alex may propose some sort of digitalization in the future that may help us. Not for tonight, but just wanted to put it out there in case the person who reached out to me is listening. I wanted to let them know that the town will look into that. Okay. I'd like to move on to item 4. What we're going to do is move on and talk about and take action on the budgets. And how did we get here? We got here through a very sequential and methodical process where it started with departments talking to their department heads, talking to their departments, bringing those to their managers and people like the town manager and the superintendent. Town manager and superintendent go through those budgets, they scrub them, they try to take things out, knowing that the town is trying to be cost conscious and be efficient. We thank the both of you for putting your best foot forward and trying to present budgets that you feel are reflective of the efforts, and I do feel that both of you did a wonderful job. They then go to the boards, the Board of Education, Board of Finance. There's all types of public hearings and workshops. People came out and spoke in various different places. And then it culminated with the Board of Finance recommendation, and we had a public hearing here at our last meeting, and tonight we'll take action on that. Following tonight, the budgets will be adopted by the Board of Finance, and they will set the mill rate based on the numbers that are approved tonight. We'll go through and we'll talk about the three budgets, the big budgets, which is the general fund, the sewer fund, and the animal control fund. And then finally, we'll also talk about the capital improvement plan. We're gonna do this in 8 different motions, which will take, and start with things like the general fund. We'll talk about the Board of Education, the general government. We're gonna pull out recreation, Councilman Palmieri. Is the head of the lifeguarding, so we're removing that so that he doesn't have to vote on that piece for the Board of Education. We will also have motions on general government regarding recreation, the Barnes Historical Society, and then we'll also do debt service, sewer, animal control, and then our year 1 capital of the 5-year capital plan. So we have to adopt the year 1. So we're gonna step through those, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with item 4A, Board of Education. What we'll do is we'll start by asking for motions and seconds, and then we will go into discussion. Anybody have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve $121,897,448 for the Board of Education operating budget for fiscal year 2025-2026.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Chris, from your caucus, I should have asked, do you guys have anything else that you want to motion on that? You good?
Based
We're
on the
good.
motion that was just made. Well, I
Yeah.
just want to point out, just for the public that's watching, that is that is the dollar amount proposed by the Board of Finance,
Correct.
which includes a $500,000 cut at the Board of Finance level from the budget that the Board of Education approved. So, just to share, I think for the first time ever, Colleen, I know you've been around for a long time too. The first time ever, the Board of Education, in a bipartisan manner, all 9 members voted to pass the Board of Education budget exactly the way the superintendent proposed it. So I think that's historic. I don't remember a time when, number one, it's been a bipartisan budget support like that, and I don't remember a time when it wasn't, there were some cuts proposed every year. So I think that's telling that all 9 Board of Education members did support that budget, and it shows, just a shout out for the work that's been done to trim the budget as best as can be.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, I've got some stuff.
Please.
So, as usual, I think the toughest part of this job as town councilors is budget time. Budget time, many meetings, many workshops. We speak with lots of people. We read a lot of articles in the news. We see the news. We see stories. We know everyone's struggling. We know our entire state has struggled this year with electric bills, whereas the state allowed Eversource to add a public benefit charge, so some of us were paying for someone else's electric. The state of Connecticut has spent $1.3 billion on illegal immigration. $112,000 was spent by the town of Southington on early voting, which the state mandated that we do. It was mandated upon us, no money was given to us. So the town had to pay $112,000 for early voting for last year. $352,000 plus was spent by the Southington Police Department on unfunded mandates from the state of Connecticut. various items. I got the list from the police department today. I don't want to go through the whole list, but, you know, body cameras and psychological testing services and drug testing overtime and new hire psychologicals and new hire polygraphs, all mandated by the state and not funded by the state. State of Connecticut mandated over $800,000 in education that the town of Southington residents have to pick up. No money comes from the state. I've mentioned it on a couple occasions that our calendar house, which takes care of our seniors, where they can go and have a good time, they ran out of money. Couldn't feed all the members of the calendar house. Thank goodness we have Bread for Life stepped in and kind of curbed the gap there. They did a great job. Thank God we have Bread for Life to step in, but I think it's ridiculous for a couple $100 a week, the state of Connecticut, which gets the money from the federal government and is supposed to give that money out to the state, to the towns. And as I mentioned, Southington is a well-run town, and we don't get it like some of the other towns that are close to us do get. State of Connecticut had an emergency meeting back in February and passed House Bill 7066 in March of 2025. And within that bill, $800,000 towards Planned Parenthood, $387,500 towards the Hartford Gay and Lesbian Health Collective, $225,000 towards New Haven Gay and Lesbian Health Collective, $225,000 for Integrated Refugee and Immigration Services, and many more, for a total of $2,887,000, all for non-government organizations that may pertain to some people, may not pertain to others. I think the point I'm trying to make is that there's a lot of money that's being spent on things outside of what some of the residents of this town deserve. I think we all work hard, we all earn a paycheck, and we're all seeing that more and more of that paycheck is going to things other than our family. This past year, we've heard it from people that came up to the dais that they have to choose between buying groceries or paying their electric bill. I mean, astronomical between delivery charges and public benefit charges. You know, folks will be upset that there's an increase in taxes. I'm sure it'll be in the news and it'll be on the streets that here we go, increased taxes again in Southington. But I'll tell you what, if some of these unfunded mandates weren't put upon us by the state of Connecticut, we would not be in the mess that we're in. So I want everyone to think about that. I think that the Board of Finance did a phenomenal job. Superintendent Medancy did a great job. The Board of Education did a great job. Alex did a great job. We see the emails he sends out to his department heads. He basically says, I don't want to see any increases. Decreases we'll take, but there better not be any increases. This past week, Mr. LaPrey mentioned that our tennis courts in 2 different parks are to the point where we can't put any more Band-Aids on them. So either we have to shut down the tennis courts because there could be a safety factor, or we're gonna have to spend money to have them replaced, and it could be upwards of $1 million. We just don't have it. We're drowning, okay? As I said earlier, Southington is a well-run town. I just feel as though because we are a well-run town, we're ignored. I've reached out to Senator Sampson. I've reached out to Mr. Poulos about this, especially about the idea with the calendar house. And I was very disappointed that there's really nothing more that we can do. The money is allocated from the coffers in the state, and I think it's embarrassing that the calendar house is treated the way they are. So that's all I wanted to say. I want to thank the chair. Mr. Chaplinsky has been to every meeting since budget season, since January 1. I'm good friends with Paul, and we speak often, and we all were at workshops. Everyone showed, I've seen everyone's faces there, but I know Paul goes the extra step. He's constantly speaking with department heads. He's constantly speaking with the police chief and the fire chief and with the firefighters, and he wants to fully understand why the budgets that they're asking for. I'm very happy that we're going to approve the budget that the fire chief gave us. we're gonna approve that tonight. And I understand Mr. Perry's plight about membership. I don't think we're gonna have a problem filling positions if we're allowed and able to. You know, I don't think that's ever going to be a problem because lots of people go to school. They, you know, want to be police officers. They want to be firefighters. So,
Mr. Chair, just point of order, we're voting on the Board of Education
Yep.
budget right now. So, I mean, some of what you're talking about is the general government budget,
Yep.
which will be next, but just point of order, we have a motion and a second related to the Board of Education budget. So,
I'm done.
Thank you, Chris.
I just figured I'd get it all in one shot.
okay, all right.
All set.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you, gentlemen. Anybody else? Chris?
Just one other comment, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. I know I've said it in past years, and I said it at the public hearing. I am pleased that the remnants of the ESSER funds and COVID relief funds are no longer present in this Board of Education budget. I remain concerned from past years, which is why I think part of what's led to where we are today, I agree with the way the town, which we all agreed with, used those funds to fund capital items like fire trucks and park renovations, because they're one-time expenses versus supplementing an operational budget. So I know we talked about that at the public hearing when Mr. Leary spoke. I'm very pleased that we're not using funds that are not replenishable year after year in the Board of Education budget, hopefully moving forward from this point on.
Jen?
I wanted to go back to your original comment, Chris, because I'm a little confused. So, are you suggesting that you don't want to see the 500,000 taken out?
I'm concerned that the 500,000 is taken out.
Okay,
yes.
because I just want to make it transparent. So, as we vote, so your no vote would mean that you are voting no because you would want to restore it.
Correct.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, if you would like to make an amendment to the vote, you can also make a proposal for an amendment for those who are interested. Just put it out there. Okay, anybody else? Last call? Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
if you would consider an amendment to the Board of Education budget, our caucus did talk about restoring 250,000 of the 500,000.
And I would second that.
So we have a motion on amendment and a second. Any discussion on the amendment?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I think
Please,
it's just
Jeff.
important to highlight what Mr. Palmeri stated earlier, that the Board of Ed, they came up with this budget unanimous. I'm going to backpedal a little bit that, you know, Mr. Del Santo states, you know, the fire chief asked for a budget, we gave it. This is another elected board. This is what they came up with. So Dems and Republicans, you know, obviously none of us serve on the Board of Ed. They're elected. So they came up with a budget that I think we should support. None of us serve on that. We're just looking at numbers and trying to, and I'm fiscally responsible, conservative anywhere I can, cut dollars, you know, where we can. I'm all for that. But I think it's important that we emphasize that this was unanimous, and Dems and Republicans on a different elected board were going to be cutting their funding, which I do not agree with one bit. And to kind of talk a little bit more about some of the points that Mr. Del Santo made, and I know he's, you know, very educated, watches, you know, all the news, everything. So I know that there's a lot of things that he didn't mention. Obviously, the state's gotten some federal cuts, or there's expected cuts coming. The trickle-down effect, like you stated earlier. I think it's also important to highlight, you know, Chris Poulos. You know, he's up at the Capitol. He brought millions of dollars back his first term as a state rep. He helped our town library, Sloper Pond, in a ton of other different things. So to say that the state isn't helping Southington, I think is kind of misspeaking. And again, if we're going to not be appreciative of the things that they do, what do you think is going to happen? If any of you guys were at the state and Southington's always complaining and there's other towns that need help, what's going to happen? So we're playing state, national level politics on a local board here instead of just doing what's best for our community. Plantsville's You know, down in the center of Plantsville, that was all redone, state money there, bridge repairs, you know, the list goes on. We get millions of dollars back from the state. So other towns aren't getting maybe bridge repairs that like we are, you know, but to say that we don't get anything from the state, I just don't think is a proper statement.
Bill?
Through the chair, Chris, to you, you don't have to give specifics. Was there anything about the $250,000 restoration? I know we don't have line item control, but was there something you guys discussed in particular, or?
So once again, the fact that 9 elected, both Democrats and Republicans, came together to support a budget. I know many items in the budget were already removed, so it leaves very little wiggle room as far as what to be cut, except for contractual services. So there's salaries, benefits, union contracts. So it is very different from the town side, and I can talk a little bit more when we get to the next agenda item, but we don't have line item control over the Board of Education. That ultimately goes back to the Board of Ed to decide what exactly they would cut or restore if there was money put back.
And if I can, Bill, is it okay to?
Yeah, oh, no, absolutely.
Okay.
Whatever you want.
And I think we discussed 250,000, just trying to keep it reasonable for the taxpayer. You know, the total reduction from the Board of Finance was 1.7 million and change. So to try to add back in a smaller amount, not trying to have a huge impact on the taxpayer, but maybe allow for a little bit of restoration. So I think that's how we came up with the 250,000.
Okay.
Anybody, any other discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Mike.
sorry, Tony.
No, I just want to make
Tony.
an observation, if you don't mind, a quick one, which is, it's very easy to talk about, you know, cuts, okay? Talk about, I think Councillor Perry did, about making cuts. You know, we're all for it, and we're all for it, we're all conservative, we're all, you know, we all manage the money and stuff. When it comes right down to it, it's a lot more difficult to actually do it. And that's the observation I wanted to make.
Thank you, Tony. Mike?
Yeah, all I wanted to say, Mr. Chair, with respect to Mr. Perry's comments, with respect to Mr. Poulos, you can't eat a library. You can't eat dredging of a pond. I mean, he brought dollars to the town of Southington to add on to the library, and he dredged the Sloper Pond. Okay, what I'm talking about, things you can touch, things you could feel, the way that taxes not funneling down, funds not funneling down from the state of Connecticut to Southington are hitting people's wallets. Okay, money going to some of the ridiculous things I talked about earlier. That's what I'm talking about, and I will not support any amendment to restore any money, because it gives me no pleasure for any tax increase, and I'm certainly not going to add more to it. Mike.
Thank you. Good?
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, Madam Clerk, why don't you call the roll on the amendment, the proposed amendment?
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Diedick,
No to amendment.
Morelli,
No to amendment.
Morrison,
No to amendment.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Clock,
No to amendment.
Del Santo,
No.
Chaplinsky.
No, the motion fails 3-6. We still have a motion before us to approve the Board of Education budget in the amount of $121,897,448, which I believe amounts to roughly a 5.94% mill rate increase. Any other discussion before we call the roll on the original motion? Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
DiPaolo,
No?
Diedick,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Palmieri,
No.
Perry,
No.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, the motion passes 6-3. Item 4B.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make
Yeah,
a
good. So, this is general government. Go ahead, Jim.
I'd like to make a motion to approve $52,966,000 $760,000 for the general government operating budget, excluding the Recreation Department and Sylvia Bradley Historical Society for fiscal year 2025-2026. This motion includes the restoration of $108,000 for a full-time assistant library position assigned to the Library Department and Barnes Museum.
And that was as proposed, that was the proposal that came to the council from the chair of the library board and the vice chair of the library board.
Correct.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the motioner first? Anything that you would like to say?
No, I'm happy that the restoration was agreed upon. I think it was a good solution, and I don't think it will, I think it's the right thing to do.
For the record, the motion that's before us for the general government, when you add it all up, general government overall as proposed, with the restoration would amount to a 1.52% increase in the mill rate. Discussion,
Mr. Chair, are you
Please,
taking
Val.
are you taking
Sure.
other motions?
absolutely.
Okay, so.
You want to make an amendment?
if
to the mo-
that's
yeah.
the way to.
We can't do another motion, but we can do an amendment.
Right. So, yes, I would like to make a motion, so to that figure, I would like to add the 42,000, so that, I would like to make a motion to restore the full 150,000 from the Board of Finance proposed
Okay.
budget.
So there's a motion to add 42,000 on top of the 108 restoration that's already proposed.
Right.
I'll second.
Chris, we have a second there.
Yes.
That would basically restore the full 150,000 that the town manager had to remove as
Right,
action
and-
from the Board of Finance.
And if I can, just to summarize why we are putting that forward, because we did hear at our last meeting, the issue to the Barnes and the library. So this would allow for the compromise position, it would allow for 42,000, it would give the town manager some flexibility if there's some staffing that could be needed, further at the library. And in addition, as we've heard, I think Tony had discussed it a little bit, the impact to the taxpayer by restoring. We also did go through some of the line item areas. We identified some areas in the budget where potentially there can be some cuts to make up for that, to make up for the restoration, so that we're not having a huge impact to the taxpayer. And I'm going to let Chris talk about those items.
Go ahead, Chris.
What I'd like to do is maybe go through, I can give you the page in the budget. This is in the Board of Finance proposed budget, and just share some suggestions that hopefully we can agree. And I think to Mike's point, to Tony's point, potentially these are dollar amounts. Maybe they're not a lot individually, but they can add up and maybe offer relief to some of our taxpayers. And Bill, to your point, vastly different. We have line item control over this budget where we can do this, where we can't by state statute with the Board of Education budget.
Okay.
Before I do that, I just want to also take a moment and highlight a positivity to the town, to the state of Connecticut, because unfortunately, it seems like often we hear doom and gloom about the state. So I tried to reach out today in anticipation of our budget deliberations and see where we're at. Now, obviously, we know until the legislature closes and they vote on a budget, it is a moving target. But as of today, through the Office of Fiscal Analysis, the Appropriations Committee, I'm happy to report, Town Aid Road, specific to Southington, was $521,177, and now they're proposing for fiscal year 26 and 27, $694,902. Mike, I look to you because I know how passionate you are about roads. That's a big impact. That's $173,725 specific to Southington from the state of Connecticut. Now, again, it's a moving target. It hasn't been approved yet, but that's something that potentially could really benefit our residents, and most residents do drive our roads, even if they're on the bus.
They're a mess.
Right, so I think that could be beneficial for us. So just want to point out a positive from the state of Connecticut. So back to our local budget, starting with, and actually before I get to this, many of these items suggested are maintenance items and could be done potentially with funds harvested from this year. We know, I've talked to the manager today, even we're using funds, there's excess reserve funds from the current fiscal year that potentially we could use and cash fund some of these projects. If we can reduce next year's budget by some of these dollar amounts, that potentially could lower the mill rate for our residents too. So with that being said, again, potentially some of these could be cash funded this year. In the IT, Information Technology Department budget, page 53, computer maintenance, which is line 100100331543015. We propose reducing that by $50,000. That still allows over $1 million in that line item. And again, the hope is potentially that we could cash fund maybe the difference with this year's budget. So that's a suggestion to reduce that by $50,000. Do you want me to go through all of them or discuss one at a time?
It's your call, Chris. Why don't you go through them all?
All right, so the total amount, just to let everyone know, is
Can
about
I ask, what's the total?
$110,000, which is why, again, we're trying to be fiscally responsible. We just talked about adding 150 back in, and we're trying to find ways. And again, keep in mind that a lot of these potentially could be cash funded this year. The next is also in the IT. It's on page 56. So on page 56, the line is mobile communication services, line 100100331562010. We propose reducing that by $20,000. That's still a $30,000 increase over the current fiscal year. And again, that potentially could be cash funded. Moving on to page 74. Let me just get there. On page 74, fire hydrant rental, line 12091544215. Suggest reduction of 15,000. That still makes it a 304,513, which is over the projection for 2025 for this year. So again, that's 15,000. Page 76, within the town hall line, it is building maintenance, line 100-14011-543010. Propose reducing that by $8,000. It maintains status quo to 2025, which again, looking at the projection, should be about 60,000. And again, could be a maintenance-related item that could be cash funded if we see an increase. Next is on page 88. On page 88 is in the tree maintenance budget. This one, we're questionable because it does say specifically it could be for safety, so I defer to the town manager. Again, maybe it could be cash funded, but it's $7,000 from the grounds maintenance line, 100-14077-540005. That would reduce that to $38,000, which was the original budget proposal for that line. And finally, in the calendar house on page 102, this is in building maintenance. It is line 100-18091-543010. And we suggest reducing that by $10,000. The projection for 2025 is $40,000. It's increased to $50,000 for next year. The actual last year was $26,409. So, Mike, to your question, all said and done, that's $110,000. The one thing, like I said, the $7,000 for tree maintenance, if that's truly a safety thing, then maybe we add that back in, but it would still be over $100,000 in potential reductions.
So Chris, would you consider the 110,000 in reductions, would you consider that as an offset to 110 of the 150 that you're proposing be restored?
Correct.
So we would increase 150 and reduce 110.
So
Instead of cash funding, we'll reduce those, right?
So we all were in agreement with the library, so we were already at 108. So it's really not 150,000, it's a differential of about 42,000.
Right, it's the 40.
But
right, it's the-
The reason I'm asking is, there's two different ways to look at this, right? You're proposing increasing $150,000 from the proposed budget, the proposed
And reducing
amount,
it by 110.
and reducing 110, but the question is, are you talking about reducing them, or are you talking about taking and cash funding them?
What I'm proposing, so right now, these are in the operational budget for next year.
Yep.
If we reduce the budget, then when it goes back to the Board of Finance, they would have a lower dollar amount to do the mill rate calculation. But I'm also suggesting that, like was done with the Board of Ed, some of these items, if we really feel they're essential, could be harvested with funds before July 1st,
Okay.
or funds that are available
I
on
understand.
June 30th. So
Thank you.
it just gives us some options.
I understand, thanks. And you know, I know that when I attended the Board of Finance workshops, things like these are looked at, and the reason that the Board of Finance did not fund these from cash funding, maintenance, rentals, maintenance, is because they're reoccurring costs. You need them year to year. So by cash funding these, you would create the fiscal cliff that was talked about for many years, and we definitely don't want to do that.
So that's why I'm proposing cutting them.
Yes.
But I'm saying, if it's like for example, computer maintenance, that particular maintenance upgrade may not be occurring year after year. That's why we were very specific. So I appreciate now we recognize. the
No fiscal
cliff.
cliffs. We don't want fiscal
We've
cliffs.
had this conversation
That's
for the
right.
past 4 years.
And we haven't had them in 4 years, so we
Oh, is
we
that right?
definitely don't want to keep them.
Yeah, that's-
Start them up again. All right, any other questions? Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
All right, who else has a question? We have a proposal to add another, it's an amendment to Jim's motion to add 42,000 more in restoration. Any other discussion on that before we call the roll?
Well, just to be clear, it's add 42,000, but then take away 110,000. So it's really not adding an additional 42,000. So fortunately, our finance director is here.
So is that what you,
Maybe-
so do you want to amend your motion? So your motion would actually be to reduce further then?
We could look at it as two separate motions if you want, or vote on each as an individual line. I don't know how you want to do it. I mean, it doesn't really matter how we do it, but we're looking to reduce
Well, I'll
by
tell you what,
110.
why don't we vote on your First Amendment? And if your First Amendment passes, then you could talk about the Second Amendment for your minus 110.
Mr. Chair, I just have a question
Yeah.
for the town manager,
Yeah.
the feasibility of what's suggested. And I know he doesn't have a vote in this, but I want to make sure that we're not, you're saying these could be paid with leftover funds from this year?
If needed, Mike. I'm
If
not
needed.
saying that.
All right.
So we were responsible in trying to look at where this year actually is, and then look at what is projected for next year. So I'm not even saying we may need to do that, but I think there's a safety net if needed.
If I could,
Please.
just
To the town
procedurally,
manager.
the $42,000, this board needs to restore via line item. So I believe our finance director, Marino, is here. She can provide what was cut, because all you can do with your authority is restore those certain line items. The 150,000 in total cuts was 3 part-time positions. So we've essentially converted one of those cut part-time positions to a full-time, which leaves $42,000 left for either one or two of those positions. The only thing I just want to bring up is the base salary for one part-time librarian is what you can put back in. That's the only thing you're allowed to put back in, unless Attorney Matney corrects me, is one of those positions. The issue is $43,000 is $1,000 more than the salary. And Chrissy, correct me if I'm wrong, the benefits bring that to like an $80,000 restoration in total. That part-time librarian is about $84,000.
But either way, they could still reduce to the town manager. They could still, the motion to the amendment of restoring an additional 42,000 could be added back to the library line. So they could,
It'd have to be
have
added
to be
back
the
to
library.
the part-time librarian line.
Right.
We could
So-
fund it partially.
so why don't you update your
Amend that
motion? Yep,
motion.
it's 42,000 to the part-time
So,
library.
right, I would make a motion to restore the 42,000 and have it be applicable to the part-time librarian.
I'll amend that, my second, my original
Second.
second.
Thanks for the clarification. Okay, any other discussion? Jim?
Yes, I just want to make a comment for the public, and that is that we previously approved a school board budget that had almost a 6% increase. So last year, the school board was about 115 million, and they went to 121.89, which is almost 122 million. Last year's operating budget for the town was around 45 million, and we're going to increase that to 52.9 or 53, which is about a 1.5%. So in the beginning of this budget cycle, the school board came in requesting 9% increase, and they got reduced, not cut, they got reduced to 5.9%. At the beginning of this cycle, the town manager had a proposed 3.5% increase, and he got reduced by almost 50% to 1.5. I think it's crazy for us to talk about $40,000 somewhere here or there, and I also think it's crazy to try to restore $250,000 to the school board budget. And this is why we do the work we do ahead of time. That's my comment.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, I'll once again thank, I want to thank the chair and the vice chair of the library board who came out and presented at the last meeting the request to restore $108,000 to the library barns. I think that promoted some discussion and a look at the budget amongst all of us. So I wanted to thank them for that, and thank the town manager as well for providing access and discussions to all of them, so that they could give us something to consider. All right, so with that, Madam Clerk, why don't you call the roll on the amendment?
Can I just clarify something before you call the roll? I just want to clarify, because I will not be voting on the recreation line in the general government, because I do work seasonally for the recreation department. So I want to be clear.
We're doing that
this-
next.
This amount is excluding recreation.
That's correct.
So and I want that on the record, too.
Thank you,
So-
Chris. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please, on the amendment, the $42,000 additional restoration.
DiPaolo,
Yes?
Diedzik,
No.
Morelli,
No.
Morrison,
No.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Clock,
No.
Del Santo,
No.
Chaplinsky.
No, okay, so we have the original motion before us of $52,966,760,000, which also includes $108,000 restoration for a full-time assistant library that was proposed by the vice chair, Jim Morelli. Any other discussion on that, Chris?
So I understand our motion failed, but we're still offering
Yeah.
potential savings in the budget. So are you
So you've
excluding those?
already detailed those, Chris? Do you want to make an amendment to reduce those?
Yeah, that's why I said to you originally, do you want
So-
them line by line, or?
You've already read them into the record. They
Okay.
total $110,000.
Okay,
So if you would like, you can make a motion to further reduce 110 as proposed.
I'd like to make a motion to reduce the general government budget by 110,000 within each individual line that was previously identified.
Right, that's an amendment to Jim's motion,
Okay,
to further reduce Jim's motion, right?
correct.
Okay.
I'll second.
Second from Councilman Palmieri. Okay, further discussion
No,
on?
Perry.
Perry, I'm sorry, Jack. Chris making both motions. Councilwoman Clark.
I'm confused again, I'm sorry.
So we have a motion from Jim to restore 108,000
Yeah,
and a
that I
motion to reduce 110 from Chris.
So, but I guess we're quote-unquote reducing it, because we don't really know or don't think it can be capital money can be used, but we're guessing maybe it can?
No.
Like, where are we going with that?
I'll be happy to clarify through you, if that's okay.
Please, Chris, go ahead.
Once again, I did not say that. What I said is, these are line items in the budget. I am suggesting reducing each line item by the dollar amounts suggested. And I'm also saying potentially, if there was something that was urgent, because these are maintenance in nature, that potentially we could use any harvested funds from this year. I am not saying right now to transfer them to the harvested funds. I'm saying there is potential to do so if need be. But I do believe that reducing this budget by $110,000 is being a little bit more fiscally responsible because we've gone through the line item control.
So if we reduce them, and then there are funds to pay, there are extra funds to pay for them, and we do, moving forward, there's no way to pay for them.
You mean in the next budget cycle?
Okay.
It would be a fiscal cliff, is
Right.
what you're saying?
Well, Mr. Chair, some of that may be, and Chris said it earlier, some of it could be, you know, one-time purchases that could be considered as capital. So watching some of these percentages, you know, go up, some of them, if you look at these, and maybe, you know, you have a recess and you look at them and bring yourself up to par, you could see that some of these could be considered as one-time capital things, and that's why the budgeted amount went up drastically. Some of them are 30%. You know, the line item says computer maintenance, but there's a lot built into that, and it went up 30%. So what we're saying is, hey, 50,000 we could reduce, and some of that may be one-time capital purchases. So that's what we're presenting.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Perry. Anybody else? Tony?
I just want to say something about that, you know, computer maintenance. I'll just address that one subject. I'm against all of it, but the computer maintenance, to be a capital project is very strange in the sense that computer maintenance by definition is you pay a contract to a vendor on a yearly basis, on an annual renewing basis. And the reason our maintenance has gone up is because we've invested a lot in technology, which we have to pay maintenance contracts for, especially for software. So I don't see the how you can transmit that into a capital project. But anyway.
Okay.
So to
Councilman
respond-
Palmieri.
To respond to that, the 2024 actual was $756,608. The projected amount for 2025 is $950,000. We're only suggesting cutting $50,000, which would still make it approximately $1.1 million. It is still an increase, and we're still leaving money in the computer maintenance line. We're not decimating the computer maintenance line. We're just looking to reduce a small dollar amount there.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? So we have a motion for an amendment to further reduce after the motion to restore. We have a motion to further reduce with the line items mentioned by Councilman Palmieri for a $110,000 reduction. Last call before we call the roll. I have some comments, but I'd like to reserve them to be the last. Anybody? Okay, my only comment is that, you know, we're coming to, I talked about this at the beginning of the meeting, that we've been in about a 2-month process, maybe 3-month process. So to come to the meeting and say that we could possibly use cash or not, or look for details now with, you know, 5 minutes left, you know, to go here, we've had 3 months to work on this. And I think if we genuinely wanted to really dig in and understand whether these are maintenance items, one-time capital, could be cash funded, not, I think that the Board of Finance has gone through the budget. They've looked for the one-time items that could be pulled out. I know Chair Leary has been diligent. I know he sat with the town manager, sat with the finance director, and went through every little thing that they could pull out that could be one-time expenses, and they've already pulled them out, which means that what's left here can't be pulled out or shouldn't be pulled out because it creates a fiscal cliff. So with that said, I'm going to ask to call the roll. This is on the amendment to further reduce 110,000.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Diedick,
No.
Morelli,
No.
Morrison,
No.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Clock,
No.
Del Santo,
No.
Chaplinsky.
No, motion fails 3-6. We still have the main motion in front of us in $52,966,760,000 with the $108,000, which includes a $108,000 restoration to the library assistant positions, library and Barnes. Any further discussion? Chris?
Just, Paul, you made a comment, so with relation to the Board of Finance, that was not a unanimous vote at the Board of Finance. There was some discussion and disagreement at that level, and yet, the Board of Education was unanimous, bipartisan, and yet we cut their budget. So to say that the Board of Finance had the time, second of all, that's what this meeting is for, to come to the table with suggestions and have a public conversation about what we're proposing with the budget. We're doing exactly what we're charged to do, and I feel like that was a criticism that we're doing it publicly at this meeting. And again, that to me is the intent of this very meeting.
Thank you, Chris. I will just, I'll point out that I was at the Board of Finance workshops and meetings, and
Was I.
And I will say that the Board of Finance never discussed a further reduction of the town government side. I know that there's some Board of Finance people here. There was no other discussion from the dissenting side, at least, to further reduce the town government. So I can confidently tell you that that didn't happen. So with that said, any other discussions?
Just quickly, Mr. Chair, so when the Board of Finance proposed budget comes to us, then that's our job, right? Our job is to look further than Board of Finance, all the workshops. We're the last line. So I think, I'll credit everybody. I mean, I think we're all doing what we need to be doing as town council members. If we have the ability to go line by line, then that's what we need to do. And this is when we're going to do it, after the Board of Finance does their job, after we hear a public hearing, we hear from our residents, and I think it's really due diligence to do what we did. So, yeah,
Thank you, Val.
you're welcome.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
I just want to echo the same things that, again, this is a proper process. The last meeting, we had the hearing, we heard from residents, they didn't want the library to be cut, especially after we spend all that money. I personally have donated money because I personally believe in it. I know Val DiPaolo did as well, and to cut that, and not fully restore it. I know there's comments about, part-time. Well, hours are hours. Hours worked are hours worked. It's not like the part-time person's only working 20 hours and the full-time person's working 40. It's not equal based on the hours that I was given. So, in my opinion, the library, being, an asset to our community, we spent money on that. We should be increasing the staffing, increasing the hours, and that's not what's happening here. So, I think the process is that we had the hearing, we heard, we now discuss that, and we try to be fiscally responsible by finding cuts in the budget after that hearing, because we realized we needed to roll up our sleeves and get to work. So I'm asking what your side of the aisle has done since that hearing, because it's not a full restore, and you guys have presented 0 cuts this evening. And to state that we rely on the state and all that, I know I brought up at this meeting of the fiscally responsibleness of this town with Hart Street. And I know I can't control what streets get closed, but when we spend $130,000 to keep one lane open of a road that could have been safely closed, happens all the time. When they do a bridge, they sometimes close it. We watch them pretty much detour 84 off of exit 30, to take out the whole bridge, and replace it all at once. So, to say that, we rely on the state and all that, I feel that, this council has failed our residents when it comes to being fiscally responsible, because I brought up things that I have knowledge about and I have experience with my career and my background. And with that being said, it was kind of laughed upon and, this, that. Okay, fine. Well, here we are, and the library's being cut. So we could blame the state, but just be prepared that any time that something happens and I bring it up and the majority doesn't want to do anything about it or mock me, just understand that's your decision. You guys won, we lost. We understand that. But you guys failed the residents after the last hearing, not coming to the table to fully restore what they asked, and you didn't come with any cuts to make it so that we aren't putting a burden on our residents.
Says the counselor who asked for an increase. Our budget.
Okay, Tony.
Yeah, thanks, Mike, for my first point. Second point, what the Board of Finance did with the budget was to reduce the ask, but it was reduced mostly by virtue of doing things with the reserves that we had. Reserves that we had from our town reserves and reserves that we had from our self-insurance, okay? That cut a huge amount out, and the overall majority of them those cuts were from that, okay? The cuts they proposed was 350 for the town and was 500K for the Board of Ed. Reductions in what they asked for. Those are very small reductions, okay? And so we felt okay about that purely because, as I said before in councilperson communications, our budget came in under inflation, wage growth, and social security increases since COVID, okay? So we're doing our right thing by the taxpayers. And for people to say on this dais that somehow we're not doing our duty because we're not making a cut in maintenance, turning it into a capital item, is, I'm sorry, frankly ridiculous.
Anybody else? Okay. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the original motion of $52,966,760, including $108,000 restoration of the library, department, and Barnes Museum.
DiPaolo,
No?
Dietzick,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Palmieri,
No.
Perry,
No.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes 6-3. We're moving on to it's actually 4B2, which is the motion, we're looking for a motion on the Recreation Department, and I think,
Mr. Chair,
yes, Mike?
I'd like to make a motion to approve $309,510 for the Recreation Department budget for fiscal year 25-26.
Second.
We have a motion and a second from the Vice Chair. Any discussion about the Rec Department budget? Chris?
Just to note again, I'm going to be abstaining from voting on this budget.
Got it. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
DiPaolo,
Yes?
Dietzick,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes 8-0-1.
Mr. Chair,
Please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve $21,378 for the Sylvia Bradley Historical Society for fiscal year 25-26.
Second?
Motion and a second from Councilman Palmieri. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'll be abstaining from that since I serve as one of the Board of Directors.
Thank you. Any other discussions? Madam Clerk?
DiPaolo,
Yes?
Dietzick,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes 8-0-1 with Councilman Perry
Mr. Chair,
abstaining.
I'd like to make a motion to approve $13,265,261 for the debt service budget for fiscal year 25-26.
Second?
We have a motion and a second from Councilman Palmieri. Any discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk?
DiPaolo,
Yes?
Dietzick,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
Clock,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
Chaplinsky.
Yes, motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve $6,681,564 for the sewer fund budget, which will reflect wage reductions due to the sewer collections being moved to the tax department for fiscal year 2025-26.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second from Councilman Dietzick. This is item 4D, the sewer fund. Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. The reason we we moved the sewer collections, people who work for the sewer fund have been moved into the town hall where they want to have a coordinated collections capability, which we think will be far more efficient in working with our collections both from the sewer fund and from taxes. And they're both the things I referred to earlier, that these are some of the things we need to be doing in order to make sure that we continue to provide services at a cost, in a cost-effective manner. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I got a question for the town manager. So this budget reflects the state mandated late fees that we weren't following, correct? Which has been increased revenue because of state funded or state mandated? maybe?
Correct, we were at 12, we should be at 18, it's reflective of the 18.
So the delinquent accounts with the state mandated will now be at 18?
Yes.
Thank
Yep.
you.
And
Any-
just for, if I may, that's been since 2007 that the.
We're charging
Correct.
6% less?
Correct, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Any other discussions on the sewer? Okay, hearing none, Madam Clerk?
DiPaolo?
Yes?
Diedzik?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Palmieri?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Clock?
Yes.
Del Santo?
Yes.
Chaplinsky?
Yes, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item E, Animal Control Fund.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve $297,596 for the Animal Control Fund budget for the fiscal year 25-26.
Second?
We have a motion and a second from Val. Any other discussion on the Animal Control Fund?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I just want to state, that they're doing an amazing job down there, the Friends of the Animal Control. I adopted a dog earlier this year, so we have, our newest addition to our family is through them. So great work being done down there, and, it's, the dog's been a phenomenal dog, probably one of the best that I've ever had. So I think it's, very important to recognize that, they're doing a great job down there.
Okay, anybody
Mr. Chair?
else? Val?
I just wanted to mention too that I've been receiving pictures today. The turf has been installed in the outside enclosure, so.
That's great.
Yeah, and just to just kind of reiterate on that, the Animal Control Fund is, there's been no increase. If anything, some decreases here, and so between what the volunteers do there and the Friends of Animal Control, it really is helping out the town quite a bit. So very, very proud of that.
Thank you, Councilwoman DiPaolo. Anybody else on animal control? Okay, hearing none, Madam Clerk.
DiPaolo?
Yes?
Diedzik?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Palmieri?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Clock?
Yes.
Del Santo?
Yes.
Chaplinsky?
Yes, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item F, the capital budget year one plan.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2025-26 five-year capital improvement plan project list and funding strategies outlined in year one totaling $15,186,748. And this motion reflects the Board of Education's request during the regular meeting of May 8th, 2025 to delay the elementary school project and expedite the Board of Education roofing projects to year one.
Second.
We have a motion and a second from the Vice Chair. Any discussion on that? We heard the Board of Education Council Chair a little bit earlier in this meeting say that they voted to push the referendum back. So that does affect our year one capital budget that we need to adjust in this motion, which is reflected in the motion. We also heard at the Board of Education meeting that they voted to pull forward the 3 roofing projects. So this $15,186,748 reflects the pull forward of those 3 roofing projects as well. So those are in the capital plan, just in a later year. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. Madam Clerk?
DiPaolo?
Yes?
Diedzik?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Palmieri?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Clock?
Yes.
Del Santo?
Yes.
Chaplinsky?
Yes, motion passes unanimously. We're going to move on to item 5. Thanks, everybody on the budget. Appreciate the good work and the dialogue this year. We're moving on to item 5, report of special committees. Open space, Jen.
Yes.
Special meeting of May the 1st, 2025, and then special meeting of May the 4th.
Yes, there were 2 meetings on May 1st. We did not have a quorum. We did meet, though, at the Leaf Farm. And had a tour of current activity with Unico Gold Medal of Honor winner, Mark Ramsey. And the tour included grafting tomato plants, growing garlic, guitar making, preparing for camps this summer, and much, much more. So visit www.leafct.com. And we also met on May 4th. It was the weekend. All of us volunteers, we volunteered our time to go down to Grosky Barn. And there wasn't a quorum, but we met and we cleared out the back of the barn. And that was, Chris was there, Ed Pocock II, Cecil Whitehead, myself, and special thanks to Dave Carbone, who brought his machine down. Paul was there as well, to look over and supervise.
Bob bring his machine.
No.
Came in his church clothes.
But it's just a truly great property that's being maintained, so we're able to just pitch in our time and do a little bit to help out.
Saw you over there.
That's it.
Thank you. Any questions on the open space updates? Okay, item B, transportation.
Okay, at the meeting we had a few things. First was we've developed a list of all the transportation options and services we have in town, and we'll be distributing those, all over town in the next couple of weeks and at various events too. However, one of the services on that list is RSVP, which uses retired folks to, use their own cars to transport people. The issue we have is that RSVP has just essentially gone out of business in the sense that they didn't get a grant that they were hoping to get. So, that being said, one of the things we have in mind to not replace that, but essentially I think which will add functionality that will be hopefully more than replacement, is to buy a van at the Calendar House. Now and this is a single, essentially an SUV that's been changed into allowing a wheelchair person to be transported and an aide with it. It can be driven by anybody with any license. You don't need a CDL license like you need for our buses. And the Calendar House says if they have that, because of the flexibility of it, they'll be able to provide essentially a much better service. So we looked at a couple of vehicles. The one we liked was a Chrysler, which is now called Stellantis. And we voted on recommending that the new van be purchased for the Calendar House, and it's be paid for from town reserves, because this is a capital project which our reserves can be used for. That was sent to the town manager. The town manager is going to send it, hopefully has already, to the Board of Finance, which for them to essentially to look at. But it's a wonderful thing. It'll kick up our services, and it's well worth doing. Last thing, because we've inventoried everything, and there's a limit to what we can do right now based on the fact that we're trying to be as fiscally conservative as we can, we're not going to meet for the foreseeable future. We'll meet on an exception basis, just like other subcommittees. There is still an issue with bus complaints. I'll take care of that. The fact that the bus stops on Queen Street and causes, a lot of angst, I'll keep following that. But otherwise, we'll meet, whenever an issue comes up for us to meet on.
Any questions on transportation? Okay, item C, Public Works, Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a brief meeting on Wednesday, May 7th, just a couple of updates. For the Highway Department, they're updating the bridges on the trail. They've completed 2 of the 3, and they look phenomenal. I'm not sure if anyone's been on there. They look fantastic. Nothing like new wood on a bridge. They look really great. Mr. LaPrey received a quote for a quick fix repair of the courts on Panthorn Park, and will make a transfer request with the Board of Finance, the Town Council, to try to get these courts under control. As I mentioned earlier, the whole idea is to get all new courts, but that's just not in the budget at this time. So, Plantsville completed their milling and paving. I did ask town engineering staff, and Mr. North said it would be done the next day, and it was. So it's really great now on my way to work that I'm not being detoured onto 84 instead of going through downtown Plantsville. So they're just about done with the project. Hopefully, by our next Public Works meeting, we can say that it's 100% done. We did have some information from Mr. Riccio about the building department. They're just around their 30-day review time, which is great. They did have, they increased again 592 inspections for the month of April, and 450 permits were issued. And we had someone from the public come up and tell us that apparently someone from the police department went out, Mr. Schneider, about a year ago, and kind of mapped out, hopefully, a crosswalk to go across Clark Street, but no progress was made. We determined that Clark Street was a state road, so Mr. Grappone was gonna speak with the chief. The chief was not at our meeting, so we couldn't confirm with him, but more to follow on that. And then another person from the public spoke about some political writing that was put on this, that was spray painted or actually Sharpied. We saw pictures on the sidewalk in front of Livewell. So Mr. Capone said he'd reach out to Livewell and let them know, because they're responsible for anything that's written on their sidewalk. So he would give them a notification that something was written on their sidewalks, political in nature. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure if Mr.
Mike,
Perry stepped away.
just
Yes.
just to give it
Sure.
tease you a little bit, the ordinance committee may or may not be dealing with political writing and graffiti, so I don't want to spoil it for next meeting. but
Okay.
More to come.
We'll see what happens.
Stay tuned.
We couldn't, as a matter of fact, the young lady that asked about it is in the audience tonight, and we couldn't figure out, looked like it was done with a Sharpie, which is a lot of hard work on a sidewalk. I don't know how they got that done. It's not spray painted, but hopefully Livewell will go out and power wash it off. I don't know if there are any questions? Thank you,
Any
Mr. Chair.
questions? Okay, thank you. Item D, Library Building Committee, Jim.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. We're winding down at the library. We're down to probably the last 2 or 3 weeks of activity there. They're going through punch lists. They're finishing up on the outside. There's some fence work that still remains. The grass has been planted, and we're hoping that this rainy weather will get that to germinate quickly. And you should see the fencing down in the next week or two. I did want to mention also that the management team there from Whiting Turner submitted their project for review to the Connecticut Building Congress. Every year, this Congress looks at major projects done throughout the state, and they look for collaboration between the public, the staff, and the contractors and the managers. And I'm proud to say that Whiting Turner was awarded first place in the large civic category for the management of the library building. And that's my report.
Any comments, questions, Jim?
It's a question for Jim.
Tony?
I know you talked about it a few meetings ago, but the drive-in, the drop-off for the books. Yeah, my wife went there today to drop off some books, and she, said, it was rather narrow. So, what are we going to do to fix that? Are we going to leave it as is, or are we going to do something?
We can't make it any wider because there's not room to widen it and have two-way traffic back there.
You want two-way traffic there?
So
Okay.
it's gonna be a one direction only.
Okay, oh, good. Okay.
And once the new parking lot gets open, you'll be able to drive in from South Main and go out Meriden Avenue.
Oh, brilliant. And will we ever use the drive-up window?
TBD.
Okay.
I mean, the problem with that is it requires pretty much a full-time person to sit in the window.
Yeah.
Right.
Val?
So Tony, I did go in, and then the parking lot's open, the new parking
Yeah.
lot's open, so you can just keep going. It's a lot easier than the turnaround.
Yeah, we tried to make it so it was,
Oh, no,
bike-free.
my
There's
wife
just
went
not
through
enough
that,
room.
But she said it was still narrow, just.
It is narrow. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it's gonna be narrow.
Right,
We
right.
talked about that early on. that-
We put a big yellow baluster next to the bump out there, so if she hits something, she's gonna hit the plastic baluster.
Yeah, she was aware of that.
But it was a little easier to just kind of go.
We
Yeah.
tried to order a cheeseburger through that window.
No sharp turns, at least.
No sharp turns.
Any other questions for Jim? I'd just like to say thanks to Jim for his hard work. I know that the Library Building Committee has been, I don't know, what has it been, 18 months-ish?
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years. So thanks for getting that done. The parking lot on the Meriden Ave side is open now. So it might not be obvious because it still has a gate there. But the gate is open, and if the library's open, that parking lot is open, so please feel free to use that. And I know that at the last meeting, there was a list of about $100,000 worth of punch list items, not punch list, holdbacks, I guess you would call them, right? Holdbacks that we were waiting to fund till the end, and I think every single one of those got done. 4 or 5 or 6 of those that were still remaining got done, so it's nice to see that that the project on time, on budget, and pretty much everything was done that was needed to do, so congratulations.
Yes, thanks.
Okay, item E, sewer. Tony?
Yeah, 2 items. First is, as I've said before, we're evaluating the West Street pump station for an upgrade based on age and need to repair. It's the last of our pump stations. We've essentially renovated pretty much all of them except for this one. It's going to cost over $1 million. We're having a project right now to find out how much it will actually be. We don't expect to have to do this for a couple of years. I mean, it's just there so we know what it's going to entail when we get around to it. But we've learned that Quantum, the bio plant, will be increasing its capabilities and will produce an extra 100,000 gallons a day that will flow through the West Street station. So we may have to do it earlier than we thought. And it's lucky we planned it like this.
Excellent.
Although it was somewhat fortuitous. Second thing, the proposed consolidations of collections capabilities at the town hall, we actually discussed. We've actually voted on it in terms of the budget. So I really don't want to talk about that. But we discussed it and we agreed we have to go ahead and do it. And the results are as you saw tonight.
Any questions on sewer? Okay, hearing no questions on sewer, item F, SHS Roof Committee, Chris?
Sure, we met April 25th, and aside from approving invoices, a couple items to share. We received grant approval from the State Department of Administrative Services, and that will give us a reimbursement rate of 54.64%. That's for the Southington High School roof. And as you know, we're moving forward with solar on the high school roof, so the interconnection application with Eversource is complete. So CSW is now preparing the bid manual that will ultimately come back, hopefully in June, to the building committee and then ultimately to the council for approval to go out to bid.
Awesome. Any questions on SHS Roof Committee? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 6, Town Manager's Report on Communication.
Thank
Tell
you,
us
Mr.
all the
Chairman.
great things you're working on, Alex.
Got a couple really good news actually this week. First one is Plantsville. Plantsville is quickly coming to completion. A couple big issues, the milling, like I believe Mr. Del Santo said, milling and paving was completed last week. There's some issues right now. The Hillside Park, which is in that neighborhood that you are detouring through. Grove Park is on Hillside Street. They were using that for staging last year. They planted some seed. They got washed out twice now. Lavero has hired a landscape company to get there this week and expedite that. So the landscaper will be there this week, remediating that, making it nice and pretty. There's a punch list item. Friday, there were 34 items on the punch list. They've got 7 of those down, and we expect all the punch list items to be closed out within 2 to 3 weeks. Those big ones, a lot of them are curbing, resetting some of the pavers, the polymetric sand, all that stuff that needed to be done. We'll do a final walkthrough before we close the project out. Speaking of the project, this will allow us to move forward with the.
On that project, Alex, can we
Yes.
also put on our radar? I think we have some really nice lights with flag poles now. It would be good if you brought to the council some proposals for holiday decorations on those, some banners or something, or I think in other communities, they use those hanging poles for like a candy cane, a lighted candy cane, or a lighted snowflake. It'd be nice if we had a couple options that the Public Works Committee could review and recommend.
Absolutely. With this project wrapping up, we've got one starting again. That's gonna be the Pocket Park. So we are, right now, the town survey crew is out there. They're shooting some lines at the grade because we just cleared out most of the material. The equipment's almost gone. The lighting consultant will be on site within the next few weeks. They're gonna specify the light fixtures to be incorporated in the wall that's being built. We're looking at a few more details that need to be spec'd out. We're going out to bid once we have everything solidified within the next 1 to 2 weeks. That'll be on Planet Bids. Thank you, Mr. Perry. And we expect the project to be fully completed by the end of this construction season. So, end of the summer, early fall at the latest. But until we get it out to bid, we sign the contract, it's hard to really narrow down the timeframe of when that's gonna be completed exactly. Flanders Street sidewalks design is nearing completion, and we're still working on getting the easements, because as you remember, there's a couple that project has a couple of easements that getting in and out of those houses on Flanders. Some of them are just work easements that we need to literally get a little mini skid steer and excavator in there to move stuff. Some of them actually are going through their property as well, that we don't have a current easement for now, so we're working on that right now as well. And a little bit more good news, Chairman Chaplinsky spoke about the transfer station. So the IT department's working on 2 things independently right now. They're kind of in parallel tracks. We don't know exactly where they're gonna end up. The first one is they are contacting different companies to find out cost-benefit analysis for like a Sellington app. So something like the YMCA, if you go to the YMCA, you don't actually have a card on your thing anymore. You just scan your QR code and everything links to there. So long-term vision would like to be, hey, you wanna go to the pool? Here's your pass. Scan in to get to the pool. Your taxes are paid. You're a resident. You've been pre-screened. You don't need to bring special paperwork. You wanna get to the transfer station. Why do you have to physically come down every year and renew your paperwork? Maybe you just go in there and upload your new registration or your new license every year to make sure you have a license and just get in that way. To really try to make it easier for the folks. We're looking at some options, what you can get out of that. Can we track the transfer station better? Can we track pool usage better? And those are the 2 big ones we're looking at right now, but we could also incorporate the library card in there possibly. So we're looking at that. Mitch Gugliotti, our IT director, also right now, he developed for CTDOT a work order system for the public. He actually posted it publicly. You can't find it. You have to have the link, but it is on the World Wide Web right now. I'm gonna share it so people want to play around with it, to look at it. And it's geotagged. It's everything. It's you type in what your issue is, where it is, where you are, some comments. You could put contact information if you want to. So if you don't want to, you don't have to. And then it all dumps it into a public database. So there's a lot of transparency. So public can see what the town is working on. Sometimes you say, hey, my light pole is down. No one's looked at my light pole. Why is my light pole? I get 4 calls a day. My light's out. It's on the queue. We're working on it. We called the contractor 16 times. This will really give the public more insight of what the town does day to day. It'll also give a lot more accountability to hey, what is being done? Let's get it done quickly. And it makes it easier to report. Hopefully it decreases a lot of the friction for calls. So a lot of times folks will go, they'll call the town council member, they'll call my office, they'll call Art Secondo, and they'll say, hey, Art, I have a problem, and Art will call me. Well, this will make it a lot easier. It's just, hey, click on here, boom, here, upload you could snap a picture, take it, and it's there for the world to see. So a lot of exciting stuff coming our way. We're likely gonna run all that through the town council technology subcommittee. So we do call those meetings, Chairwoman Clark calls those ad hoc. So we'll probably have something in the next month or 2 to kind of pre-brief it before we bring it to the council. And that is all I had.
And you also had mentioned in one of our conversations that you have some potential new features coming for finance as well, with some software maintenance funds.
Yeah, so the budget that we just completed and Chrissy just left, historically has been built with 10 to 12 spreadsheets. And they don't connect with each other, they're not linked, they're just independent spreadsheets. They're all hard-coded, so every spreadsheet gets updated. When you build the budget book, it's about 15 spreadsheets that they have to keep updating. So if Councilwoman DiPaolo called and said, Alex, if I take $150,000 out of here, what happens? It takes the finance department an hour to 2 hours to run that scenario, because they have to go to 15 different spreadsheets and update them to get a final result. This is gonna be more in real time, so if Councilwoman DiPaolo calls and says, Alex, put a $30,000 in this line, and what happens? It flows the whole way from soup to nuts. And it also is gonna have a public-facing portal. So instead, right now, if you go on the website, you'll see the PDF. it's hard to drill down and see where that money goes. It really is. We're a lot better than most towns. We're much better than a lot. A lot of towns just have an Excel scanned document in there. But what I want to see is, click on this. What actually got paid out of that account? Like, who got paid? Where's the money actually going? This way, when people come and they talk about their taxes, they talk about spending, they can actually see line by line. They don't need to call and say, what is this money going towards? So really trying to optimize it for the staff, for the public, and just really for the transparency and accountability for everybody.
Just a real quick comment. I mean, the first thing you mentioned about making it, great for the public, right? Especially, having a wallet that you could put all your cards in for the town and everything, which would be great. But it also, anything like that makes things better for our customers, it also takes the labor off you. I mean, they're money savers on the back end as well. So you don't have to go out and hire, thousands of people, okay? We can do, more wonderful services with the same people we've got. And it's really wonderful to watch. So just want to compliment you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the town manager?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
Just quickly, Alex, have other towns that have transfer stations, do you know what are they doing the same thing we do, basically?
So they're not. Mr. Perry and I have had many conversations on this. Most of them charge. So most of them, you kiddy up, you have an online account or portal, and you put in money. I know Bristol, Plainville, you put in money and they either weigh you or it's by the item. I believe tires are very expensive, things of that nature. So we're one of the very few that is just unlimited. But most of them have like an online system where you preload funds or some sort of a fund loading system.
Okay, thank you.
And just to emphasize, on the budget line item, when you see what the transfer station costs, that is mainly all the disposal. That is not the manpower, the town's trucks, buying the dumpsters. So that number doesn't really reflect the true cost of the transfer station. So I looked at it and I know how the operations work in the waste industry, and it just, the numbers don't jive. And Covanta and Bristol, I know their contract's coming up with the community soon, and you're gonna probably watch that rate double, because when that went out to bid last time, it was, Myra and Hartford was still open, being subsidized through the state, and they've since closed. So a lot of our trash now, unfortunately, goes out of state to landfills. So you're gonna watch, they know what the market is. The last time that went out to bid, there was competition. There is still competition, but it's more costly. So they're just gonna obviously, go up on the rate, and they start taking in more biomedical waste, which pays about, I don't know, probably 5 times the cost of normal municipal solid waste. So that's something to really watch. That number may just double on disposal, let alone the trucking and the fuel and the maintenance and the labor. So it's definitely something to look at.
Any other comments, questions for the town manager? Okay, item number 7, town attorney's report. Thank you, Alex.
Just to report that we approved, obviously, the ability to enter into the contract to sell 22 Main Street. I did get the attorney's name and spoke to him today for the buyer. Had a very positive conversation. I'm getting him some more information tomorrow, but he wants to get it to contract quickly, and we're going to do our best to do that. That's the only thing I have to report. I spoke to the town attorney, Lou, and he had nothing else to report except that it's his birthday today, but nothing else to report.
He reported that.
Yeah, he wanted to be sure that he got lots of attention today, That's why you have the privilege of me being here as opposed.
Always good to have you.
So.
Any questions for the town attorney on 22 Main Street sale? Okay.
Just Alex is you're going to negotiate it?
Attorney Matney is gonna be negotiating the contract,
Okay,
the
that's
legal
right,
side.
with the buyer's attorney. Okay.
And we'll be in contact. I was doing emails today, getting more information, but.
That's right, we had decided, okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 8, public communications. If there's any members of the public who would like to speak, come on up. Nobody? Chairwoman Triano is in the back. She's hung in this whole time.
Victoria.
Okay, going one more time, nobody? Okay. Hearing none, no public communications members tonight, so we will move on to item number 9, which is our scheduled executive session. We're looking for a motion to table on that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second from Tony. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'll abstain from that.
Okay, motion passes 801. Councilman Perry abstained. Item number 10, old business A, looking for a motion to table
So
the
moved.
action on real estate contractual matters, 22 Main Street. Thank you, Mike.
Second.
Yes, we have a second for a table from Val. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
I'm going to abstain from that as well.
motion passes 801. Councilman Perry abstains. Item number 11, new business tax refunds.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the tax refunds that are presented in our packets.
Second.
Motion is second from Bill. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned. Second from Jim. All in favor? Aye. No discussion.